My Simple Fort is a siege game where the player must capture the enemy forts using shapes before they capture his. The player will shuffle through random shapes using left-right arrow keys during the level until he or she feels confident with the one showing up in the viewer. Secondary viewers will show the player which shape is coming up next from either side. The player will grab the chosen shape and drop it into the enemy fort within the grid. Once a shape is grabbed, the player can use all arrow keys to rotate the shape until he or she is satisfied. The interior of the enemy forts must be completely filled in order to complete the level. Once a shape has been placed into an enemy fort, that shape can't be moved to another fort. However, that shape can be repositioned or removed entirely by dragging the shape to the trash can. On levels where the enemy has multiple forts, it will be like playing against multiple enemies. Each enemy will be using randomly generated shapes to fill empty sections of the player's fort. These shapes will be generated using a hidden timer for each enemy. As levels increase, they become more difficult by this timer being lowered. This can result in 2 or more shapes for the enemy to every one of the players. The theme of the game is the Irish Middle Ages, using old castles as player and enemy forts. The game elements will be easily viewed in the 2D top-down perspective. There are 10 levels across the world map, and the player's goal is to complete each level to win the game. After a level is completed, an option will become available for the player to play that level again at a higher difficulty. This does not have to be done in order to win the game. Some of the items that the player can get is an erase tokens. If the player fills an enemy base with a single color, he or she will receive an erase token. The player can use the erase token at any time on any level to erase a single shape from his or her fort. Another thing is auto erase. An auto erase is an event that takes place if the player achieves a certain goal. If the player fills an enemy base with a single color, not only will he or she receive the erase token, but also that same color within the player's base will automatically vanish. Another item is the Shape Select token. The player has the option to save up to 5 of his or her favorite shapes into a hotbar. This is done by simply dragging and dropping a shape into the hotbar, and it will save an outline of that shape. The original will return to the viewer where it can be grabbed again and used if the player wishes. These favorite shapes can be obtained by using a Shape Select token at any point through the game. A Shape Select token is gained when the player completes a level. The antagonizing forces are the timers for each level and enemy AI. As the player advances toward the end, more enemies will be added. The timer will always be set to a certain time throughout the game. The time may be adjusted for the higher difficulty levels. Player choices and decisions include the player will be able to choose which shape to use at any given time. Once a level has been completed, the player will be able to move forward or choose to complete the same level on the hard difficulty. The player has the ability to remove and or reposition shapes already placed in an enemy's fort. The player will have the option of using gained items. One similar game is Rampart because the levels look and feel similar. Rampart uses ships and cannons to destroy bases, and there is no destruction in My Simple Fort. Another similar game is Tetris, and this is only because of the shapes. In Tetris, the shapes can be selected and rotated similar to My Simple Fort. The difference is the mechanics for how the shapes are used. Risks involved with creating this game include player choices. Are there enough player choices to make this game interesting?